another structure on school property. That's a big deal. What else does a head house do? A head house allows you to start seedlings in a different controlled environment than out in the high temps of the greenhouse. You can keep it darker, cooler, more moist. That helps to do a better job in the greenhouse. So someone knew what they were doing when they were planning this. Next area down is the STEM lab, science, technology, engineering, math. A CAD lab, computer-aided drafting, basically for the SolidWorks. And then an ag lecture hall. The existing ag classroom would become the food science lab, and then the shop would become the ag lab. So there's a lot of things built into this. Remainder of the school, I'm not going to go into a lot of details here tonight, but we do have the move of the choir and band out of that wing into a gymnasium that would fit their need, or excuse me, an auditorium that would fit their needs, allow for better performances, and allow for safety of the students. So they're not going up spiral staircases in the dark trying to reach a restroom, things like that in the back. The gymnasium part of it, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So why such a large update? And that was one of my big questions. Why would we spend so much money on such a structure? The infrastructure needs updating. This is not a desire, this is a must. The building is very inefficient utilities. I'm not going to go into details on numbers, but if you just drive through the bus port, see the glass, look at the structure, you can imagine the utility costs for that facility. The wiring is limited. There are many classrooms with one outlet. So think of all your iPads, iPhones, cell phones, laptops, other devices. Some of the classrooms have one outlet. One. You couldn't conduct business with one outlet. But we're trying to train students and educate students, the minds of the future here in the community. The auditorium is not sufficient for the programs in place. It's been great. I have a lot of great experiences in that auditorium. I think it's a great facility. But if you look at what a modern day facility has, that facility does not have it. We need better access, we need better lighting, we need more space around the stage. There's a lot of things that it needs. Building tours, there's a tour coming up next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. The other two have already taken place. I'd like to invite you to come and take a look at it for yourself and see it firsthand. But now I'd like to talk about why it's truly important to Mayville. Mayville, in particular, has a manufacturing base that needs qualified, educated associates. People that are driven to higher levels of math, science, and manufacturing knowledge as a base. And I heard a comment in one of my talks where a gentleman asked me, well, if the industry needs us, why don't they just go and pay for it? You know what, I had to think about that, because he has a point. Why wouldn't you have the businesses pay for it? Well, after thinking about it, I can tell you, because I've been through it firsthand. If you hire someone as a manufacturer that has no experience, that doesn't really know much about manufacturing, and you bring them in, and you invest in them, two things are most likely to happen. It's very rare that you have a third where you actually keep the individual. I've been through this many times. Number one, they become aware of what manufacturing is about, and they decide it's not for them. And they go off to another job. That is probably the most common. The second most common thing that happens is that that individual gets anywhere from 90 days to 6 months of experience, and the factory down the street offers them 50 cents or $1 more an hour, they're gone. Why? Because they have no commitment to that manufacturer that's been investing in them. That manufacturer can't afford that extra buck an hour because he just dumped $5 grand or 10 grand to educate that person to get them up to the skill level that they need. So yes, I agree, manufacturers should pay for it, and with this referendum they would be, because your manufacturers here in Mayville own property too. You look at some of the facilities in this town, you start talking millions and millions of dollars of property, they're paying those taxes. So on a $2 million facility, I think I had it figured out to about a $2,000 increase per year, give or take, on that facility's property taxes to pay for this referendum. So we can talk about investments on $100,000 or $150,000 home. These manufacturers in town with multiple $1 million facilities are going to pay quite a bit towards this referendum too, so we need to keep that in mind. Without a qualified workforce in development, Mayville's future is very much limited. The current workforce is maxed out. It is very difficult for manufacturers in this town to hire entry-level employees. I want to say that again. It's very hard to hire entry-level employees. We really struggle with it. I can find an engineer to design farm equipment in a specialized market a lot easier than I can find a qualified entry-level employee. And that's something we need to work on. The other thing is that not everyone will go to college. I think college is a great thing, not telling anyone not to go to college. But we need to provide the basic skill sets and exposure to different industries to allow students to seek a career right out of high school and not be limited to low-income jobs. We just hired a gentleman from Beaver Dam that was working 2 part-time jobs and had some tech ed classes in high school, but had a hard time finding a position in Beaver Dam right out of high school. So he had a little bit of tech ed exposure, knew he wanted to do something with manufacturing, hasn't quite found his way. We brought him in, we're training him, we're getting him up to speed. My point is, by bringing in one individual from 2 part-time jobs, opens up 2 more part-time jobs for other people to fill. So it has a compound impact in the community. So if we can bring some of these students that have the ambition, that could use the awareness, could use the skill set development in high school, get them into our industry, get them involved in the community, it opens up subsequent opportunities for other people to fill those positions in the community. Also, those going to college need higher standards for entry into college. They need the basic skills to have an advantage over others going to college to have a better chance at a career after college. I can tell you from my own experience in high school, I did the physics, I did the calc, did all the advanced classes. Go to college, get the classes. Glad I did, but I wish I would have done more in the tech ed area. Because when the time in my career came where I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to be a manufacturer, I had missed those classes. I was not exposed to that in high school. I had the agriculture, I had the advanced classes, but I wish I had the exposure and the awareness on the manufacturing side. Would have made a big difference for me in life. The local agricultural industry also needs qualified, educated associates. Cheese production, egg production. As operations grow, their need for employees grow. So even though there's less farms out there, we now have operations with several thousand head of cattle in a facility. They need more qualified employees. They need employees that are exposed to more classes in high school. We need more entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs help to bring more industry into town. We need more businesses locally to drive the economy forward. We're not going to attract a GM, a Caterpillar to come into town and open up a 10,000 job facility to put people to work. It's just not going to happen. We can grow our community by growing our industry from within. We have other fields. We've got landscaping, greenhouses, co-ops, custom harvesters, repair technicians. There's other opportunities in other fields that would benefit from an expanded educational program at Mabel High School. So what does the referendum mean? It means the future of the economy in Mabel. It's not just a building. It's a direction that you want the economy of Mabel to follow. We have to invest in our own people to grow the future of the economy, and that starts with education. Yes, there are tax implications. I have no argument against that. It's a short-term hit, in my opinion, when you look at the grand scheme of things. We also have an opportunity coming up, I believe, with the TIF District number 3, closes in about 2017, which is where we're relocating to. There are things that could be done at that time, I believe, to help lower the tax burden. Long-term, though, this referendum is an investment to the community and the future of industry in Mabel. Postponing that decision only makes it tougher in the future. You can talk about interest rates, that's fine, but cost to construct facilities goes up with time. I can tell you that firsthand. You wait to build a facility, it goes up every year you look at it, and it's daunting, and we've been through it looking at our own facilities. And you put this off another year, cost could go up 5%, could go up 10%. Every year that you put it off, it goes up, and it becomes more painful to do the same things that you could before. Tack on higher interest rates in the future, it may not even be feasible in the future. We're very fortunate to be at this point in time, in this situation, in this economic period, of where we are to have this opportunity to at least discuss it. So 2 parts of the referendum. They're intended to go together, but separated to show the different cost of each component. The first is the renovation and the new auditorium and new rooms. The second is the new gymnasium. It's been adjusted down since the survey went out. Scope is reduced to the basic essentials for space, security, and infrastructure. That was a big concern of mine after the survey went out. I thought, boy, it's a little high on the gym side. Well, it's been stripped down. Things have been rearranged. So if we look at the floor plan, we covered this before, but the new gymnasium would be added to the end of the facility. You have some other structures in here that are explained in the handout. The one other one I wanted to point out that's important to me is the science labs. Down in the basement of the bus port, or in the bus port, would be science labs that would be created and expanded for the science department. I can tell you a lot of stories from high school about being cramped in small corners with things in science classes that you shouldn't be doing as youngsters, but this would provide the opportunity to expand the lab area, to expand the learning environment, and make more room for those students. The gymnasium, just to cover briefly, it's needed to avoid overcrowding. Student activities, from my understanding, are starting today at 5:30 a.m. Some practices ending at 8:30 p.m. or later. I've heard some go as late as 10 p.m. on some nights. You have students traveling to other schools to participate in after-school activities. Let me ask you this. Would the quality of education of the students improve if they did not have to go to a practice that they want to be involved in at 5:30 in the morning, and if they could all be done with their after-school activities by 8 o'clock at night, where they could go home, get a good night's sleep? I expect the answer is yes. Would those parents benefit by not having to chase after one child at school while another one is sleeping at home already, a younger sibling of the older child? I suspect so. So this gives us just the basic resources needed to fulfill the requirements of the programs already in place today. We have more female athletes. We have more activities going on. We have teams being added. It seems like every couple of years more teams are being added. This is a good thing. It promotes awareness. It promotes involvement. It promotes students to get involved in the community. And these are all great things. The facility is also too small to host different events. A larger facility could host more events that could draw in more revenue. There are also much more higher participation rates across the board than there were years ago. This is the most economical solution to the need. We're not ready for a new school. The scope is already cut back since the survey was sent out, and it keeps the existing structure to minimize the new floor space being added. So April 7th is a big day. There's no school on April 6th. It's also Easter week. So my thought here is that turnout is going to be difficult. So that's why I'm trying to get the word out, to share information about the referendum and just get as many people out to vote on that day as possible. If you want to do it, you need to vote. If you don't want to do it, you still need to vote. Consider an absentee ballot if you're not going to be around at that time. A vote for the referendum, though, is an economical choice for the future of the industry in Mayville, and a vote for the future of the Ag and Tech Ed program in Mayville. A future with no change, what does it mean? From my side, it means that the Ag and Tech Ed programs have already peaked. The message to the local economy is, you're on your own. I can live with that, but I've explained the complications with that. When you get to be a larger manufacturer, though, it's very difficult. When you have other communities with that educated base there willing to work, it's more feasible for those companies to expand in those areas. The cost to do things down the road will be higher. Interest rates are low now. 5 years, likely much higher. Deterioration over time could lead to more expenses. When energy prices go back up, operational expenses are going to go back up. Just something we need to be aware of. So I'd like to leave you with a closing thought tonight. I always try to close out with a quote, and I've selected one from Henry Ford. Henry Ford once said, "That person is best educated who knows the greatest number of things that are so, and who can do the greatest number of things to help and heal the world." In the context of today and what we have here in Mayville, quality of education is everything, and the ability of our qualified educators to do their job is limited by their workspace. We need to further enable our quality educators to make a greater impact on our community. Thank you.